May is here, or almost here, or possibly long since past. I don't know when you're watching this video, but I'm recording it in late April to tell you all about next month's big games. Here are May 2026's biggest game releases. Before we get started, just the usual heads up, we do our very best to make these videos as accurate and comprehensive and timely as possible, but occasionally stuff falls through the cracks. Sometimes it gets announced really late and we miss it, and sometimes we just screw up because we're human beings. Either way, for best results, always check your local listings, otherwise you might injure yourself trying to play a video game that isn't out yet. That would be unfortunate. On May 1st, there's Dark Pals, The First Floor, a first-person mascot horror game in which the mascots hunt you and you've got nothing but an ink blaster with which to defend yourself. What's an ink blaster? I don't know, but it seems like something that patients probably wouldn't be allowed to have in a children's psych ward, which is where this game takes place. That's on PC. Hitting early access on PC on May 1st is The Devil of the Plague, a 1 to 4 player co-op survival game that'll have you creeping around spooky medieval locales, trying to do some arcane rituals, and hopefully not getting torn to shreds by even more arcane creatures lurking in the shadows. Still that day, still on PC, is Soul Quest, a throwback hack-and-slash revenge story that sounds a bit like God of War, but rooted in Celtic mythology, so you're going after Morrigan instead of Ares. That's Celtic mythology, not to be confused with Celtic urban myths. Like if you say Larry Bird 3 times in front of the mirror, he'll show up and do a slam dunk. On May 4th, there's Island Tiles, which, as you may have gleaned from its portman title of Island and Tiles, involves instances of the former made out of the latter, and you'll be doing some city building on these island tiles with some good old-fashioned cozy roguelite deck building. If that wasn't enough Steam description buzzwords, a day later there's Wax Heads, which is a, quote, cozy punk narrative sim about running a record store, which looks a bit like High Fidelity the game, but with Scott Pilgrim art direction. That one's on PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch. Celestial Return is a story-driven, dice-based cyberpunk RPG, and I get that dice are just analog random number generators and that Cyberpunk 2077 is in fact based on a beloved pen and paper tabletop game, but it's still very funny to see such a futuristic genre paired with such a quaint, old-fashioned mechanic. It's kind of like my leather-bound copy of Neuromancer, which looks like an old-timey wizard tome and not at all futuristic sci-fi. Anyway, that's on PC. Duck Side of the Moon is a cute-looking adventure that features some sort of waterfowl, possibly a duck, exploring a distant planet that may or may not be the moon. I'm unclear. That one's on PC and Switch. Infinity Sweeper sounds like a bootleg Roomba, but it is in fact a roguelite spin on Minesweeper, which initially doesn't sound particularly engaging to me, but neither did Balatro or Vampire Survivors, and then those proceeded to be so engaging that it was a problem. That one's on PC. On May 7th, there's Mixtape, which has had my attention since the very first trailer dropped ages ago. This one's a coming-of-age adventure about a group of friends spending their last night together, set to a killer soundtrack, and my first thought was that it looks like a video game adaptation of the Smashing Pumpkins music video for the song 1979, which is reinforced by the fact that Smashing Pumpkins are, in fact, on the soundtrack. Somebody should make a video game based on the music video for Tonight, where you whack little old aliens with an umbrella. Someone's probably already done that. Anyway, Mixtape is on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC. On May 8th, there's Akuma Rise, a story-driven JRPG following a demon with amnesia, as well as 3 demon princesses, and also a strange mascot who may or may not also be a demon. That one's on everything. On May 8th, if you don't feel like playing video games, you can go watch a movie about a video game because Mortal Kombat 2 hits theaters. This will feature all sorts of gruesome injuries and comically graphic dismemberment, and probably a few quippy one-liners because Johnny Cage is finally here, played by Carl Urban. It's showtime. Hydroneer is a mining and base building sandbox that'll have you digging holes in the ground and then getting stuff out of the holes and then making things out of the stuff. It's got a ton of great reviews on Steam, and now it's coming to Xbox Series and PC on May 8th, and while the ESRB hasn't yet given it a rating, it does seem like it'll probably be rated E for everyone, meaning that it's suitable for minors in both senses of the word. Also hitting PC that day is Everything is Crab, the animal evolution roguelite, which is, in fact, a roguelite where you make animals evolve into weird stuff, including, but not limited to, crabs. Kinda looks like a cross between that old Super Nintendo game, Evo, The Search for Eden, and Toe Jam and Earl, which, fun fact, is technically a roguelike. Also, if you're old enough to get references to those games, you're probably old enough to be suffering from plantar fasciitis, just like me. And if so, throw your best orthotic insole rex in the comments below, because my feet hurt. Anyway, speaking of the elderly, on the 12th, there's Call of the Elder Gods, the first-person narrative adventure follow-up to the 2020 indie hit Call of the Sea. That one's on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC. If you'd prefer to play a first-person adventure period piece centered around uncovering fantastical mythology, but one where you can also throw random objects at Nazis, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle hits Switch 2 that day as well. Directive 8020, a Dark Pictures game, is the latest entry in Supermassive's ongoing cinematic horror narrative choose-your-own-adventure series thing, and this time it's about scary stuff happening in outer space. That one's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. If you want to deal with some unthinkable otherworldly horrors without going into orbit, Saint of Chains is a low-poly first-person psychological horror game with some grisly monstrosities that look like they take some fashion tips from Pyramid Head and Hellraiser and his weird Cenobite pals. That one's on PC for now. Last but not least, on the 12th, there's Burgle Supply Company on PC. This is a co-op comedy horror heist game in which 1 to 6 players try to steal stuff, but also not get eaten by mutant pets in the process. This was released in early access last year under the title Good Boy, but changed its name possibly to set it apart from the dog-centric horror movie Good Boy, which was in theaters back in October, or maybe to avoid confusion with 3 other games that have tried to use that title at some point. On itch.io, there's a visual novel and a horror game called Good Boy, and Team 17 announced a space robot Metroidvania coming later this year called Good Boy that has since changed its name to Rover's Tale. I think Burgle Supply Company is the best name of all of those. Anyway, if you're more of a cat person who likes solving crimes rather than a dog person who likes committing them, Feline Forensics and the Meowseum Mystery also hits PC, which is a cute monochromatic puzzle adventure, and as far as I can tell, there are no other games or media properties with that exact same title. On May 19th, it's time to burn rubber, baby, because Forza Horizon 6 has arrived. It actually arrives even earlier. If you get the early access version, you can start playing on the 15th. This is probably my second most anticipated open world game about cars with the number 6 in the title this year, though in this case, unlike the other one where you steal the cars, Forza Horizon is all about buying them and then maybe selling them if you get doubles.
I love my cars, you know me.
I was completely taken by surprise how much I fell in love with Horizon 5, and if this is just more of the same, I'll be happy. But it's shaping up to be more of the same with way better graphics, a whole Animal Crossing-like home customization system, and apparently some big robots? Good heavens, I'm excited. That one is on Xbox Series and PC with a PS5 version showing up somewhere down the road or possibly on top of a big hill. Either way, it doesn't matter. You can drive anywhere in these games. You can go on the road, you can go on the hill, and they even reward you for crashing into stuff. I love it. If you would like to drive much less aerodynamic vehicles a whole lot slower in considerably less scenic locations, you can do that on the go now thanks to Farming Simulator 26 hitting Switch 1 and mobile. In case you somehow missed the original Darksiders on the first 9 platforms it was released or re-released for, now you can experience the War Mastered edition of the 2010 grimdark hack-and-slash Zelda-like on PlayStation 5. Personally, I think you're better off going to kick some rocks in Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core. This one's a roguelite spin on the beloved sci-fi FPS about space dwarves mining for moon rocks, and that's hitting early access on PC on the 20th. If you and your friends would rather just steal shit, Thick as Thieves is a stealth action heist game that can be played solo or co-op with up to 3 pals. This is the latest from Warren Spector, who gave us the original Deus Ex and Epic Mickey, but who I confuse with Warren Ellis, who gave us the comic series Transmetropolitan and the Netflix Castlevania show, but I also get Warren Spector mixed up with Phil Spector, who produced a bunch of great pop music and then murdered his wife, but I get Phil Spector mixed up with Phil Spencer, who was the head of Xbox up until recently, and as far as I know has not been convicted of any felonies. Anyway, you and your friends can commit felonies to your heart's content in Thick as Thieves on PC with some console versions still to come. See, I get off topic, but I bring it all back around again. If you'd like to navigate some ethical dilemmas, moral gray areas, and otherwise cognitively dissonant situations in a world of surreal sci-fi espionage, look no further than Zero Parades for Dead Spies. This is the new game from Zaum, the studio behind Disco Elysium, and while Zaum still employs a large number of people who worked on Disco Elysium, I'm not going to say that it is the spiritual successor to Disco Elysium, because following the heavily publicized departures of numerous members of the original dev team, at least 4 studios have been founded with the intention of making a true Disco Elysium spiritual successor. But if you're itching for more Disco Elysium style gameplay, Zero Parades is the first one out the gate. That one's on PC, with a PS5 version coming sometime later this year. If you'd like to play something a lot lighter with probably less convoluted politics, you can touch fuzzy and get dizzy in Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. What's the book? Perhaps a Clive Cussler novel, maybe some erotic short stories, maybe a Necronomicon, I don't know. The book is mysterious, and if you want to find out what it is, you have to play the game for yourself. It's exclusively on Nintendo Switch 2. If you want something that is 98% less colorful than a Yoshi game, there's Helix, Descent and Ascent, a cool-looking monochromatic puzzle adventure type thing that's on Switch 2 and also PC. If you like mechs and anime people and turn-based combat, the story-driven RPG Starbites looks to have plenty of all those things. That one's on both Switches, PS5, and PC. If you're mad as hell and you're not going to take it anymore, you can blow your top in Table Flip Simulator, which is coming to PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. It might seem like a kooky offbeat indie title, but the 2009 Taito arcade game Cho Chabudai Gaishi actually did it first. That was a hit. The table flipping arcade game. Remember that thing? Anyway. On May 22nd, Bubsy 4D completely squanders a good fur-D pun in the title, but still looks to be a proper spiritual successor to Bubsy 3D. And like all Bubsy games that have come before it, it has the potential to suck big time, but it is in good hands. This one is developed by Fabraz, the studio that gave us Slime Son and Demon Turf, so they know a thing or two about 3D and 2D platforming. Personally, I think the best Bubsy game to date is Bubsy at the James Turrell Retrospective, where Bubsy just wanders around an art exhibition at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Anyway, Bubsy 4D is on everything, and Bubsy at the James Turrell Retrospective I think is just on PC, but it's worth checking out. It's free too, I think. It also might be illegal, I don't know. If you want a goofy 3D platformer that's also somehow a successor to Rocksteady's Arkham series, look no further than Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, which looks to be a bit of a departure from the last 20 years of LEGO games, but probably for the best. I get the sense it's focused on quality of gameplay over quantity of minifigs in its roster. There are still going to be plenty of costumes to collect for the Bat family protagonists, but Condiment King won't be playable, I don't think. That one's on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC. On May 25th, Paralives enters early access on Steam, which aims to fill that Sims-shaped void that EA has spent the last 12 years shoveling full of thousands and thousands of dollars worth of expansion packs. If Inzoi looked too much like somebody remade Animal Crossing using real dolls, this might be more your speed, boasting a stylized aesthetic, but still featuring enough realism that your simulated people may wind up crying on the bathroom floor. On May 26th, Lumentale Memories of Trey is a colorful monster collecting RPG coming to Switch and PC. If you'd rather do some colorful monster collecting on the go, there's Slime Rancher Mobile. You can play it in public and get slime in your phone instead of just on it. You can't see the slime, but I know it's there. It's on all of our phones. Everything is covered with a little bit of slime, but I know where you take your phone, and I can only guess what you do with it when you get there. But I'm fairly certain there's plenty of slime on there. Still that day is The Relic, the First Guardian, an action RPG that might not necessarily be a Souls-like, but which very clearly looks like a Souls game. The official Steam description states, embark on a heroic fantasy adventure in this unique Asian-inspired action RPG. Considering how much the environments, architecture, weapons, and costume design look like they were squarely rooted in Western fantasy, I'm unclear exactly what those Asian inspirations were. I guess maybe just FromSoft games. That one's on PC, Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. Considerably more unique in its presentation is Yerba Buena, which hits those same platforms that day as well. This is a heavily stylized puzzle platformer that takes some inspiration from Portal, but is set in a surreal, squeaky clean reimagining of 1970s San Francisco. On May 27th, 007 First Light drops, which gives an all-new spin on Ian Fleming's iconic spy, showing his early career in which he fights Lenny Kravitz. Okay, sure, why not? This is from the studio that gave us Hitman World of Assassination, so I'm trying really, really hard to keep my expectations in check. But as they say, the world of assassination is not enough. That joke was stupid. That one was for your ears only. I'm sorry, I'll stop. First Light is on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC, with a Switch 2 version coming later this year. GoldenEye. If you would like to play a video game that is the exact diametric polar opposite of a AAA adventure based on one of the most infamously misogynistic power fantasies in 20th century popular culture, and I say that as a huge James Bond fan, there's Blueberry! It's a pleasantly colorful indie puzzle platformer that deals with some substantially darker subject matter, taking you into a woman's mind as she faces her own trauma. That one's on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. A day after that, there's Nickelodeon Extreme Tennis Next, which sounds like a 1990s game show that would have given its contestants trips to space camp and/or extensive physical and mental trauma, but it is in fact the console port of a mobile game in which colorful cartoon characters play, you guessed it, tennis. That one's on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. Do I need to say the name of every single platform for every single game? There's some value in it, but I also feel totally insane writing these platforms out dozens of times a month and then subsequently reading them out loud. Sound off in the comments with your thoughts on the matter. Do I need to say this is coming to Xbox Series, PS5, PC, Switch 2, etc.? Or can we just put the little logos on the screen? Let me know, I'm curious. Actually, wait, hold on, I think that's it. That's the end of the games. We did it, gang. As usual, thank you so much to everybody who helped this video come together. Amanda Medina, Logan Plant, and Ask Amanda, who is editing this video before you record this. Chris is still on paternity leave. I didn't get to that. And of course, thank you to everybody who took the time to watch this video. I appreciate you a whole lot, and I can't express how much it cheers us all up to read these nice little comments on these silly little weather forecasts we do for video games. That is all for me. I'll be back next month with... No, it's not June next month. That's not right. Off. Get out of here with that. It was just February. There's got to be at least 2 or 3 months between May and that next month. But I'll see you then, whatever month it is. Thanks for watching.